Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Fortitude. Hey, this portion of Let's Talk Fortitude, or this podcast, is actually brought to you by, or sponsored by, Pale Horse Coffee, Country First, Coffee Second. Visit palehorsecoffee.com and use promo code Forerunner at checkout for your 15% off discount. Pale Horse is a veteran-owned and operated coffee shop, coffee business. So if you would, visit them and palehorsecoffee.com, and they're on Facebook, Instagram. Awesome company. They've been really good to us, letting us shoot our podcast there. Chad had a book signing there. Again, that's Pale Horse Coffee, palehorsecoffee.com. Enter Forerunner at checkout for your 15% off. Also, Cremoso Cheesecake Company, Jason Hubbard. They has a cheesecake truck or a food truck here in the Charlotte area. If you would, just visit Cremoso Cheesecake Company on Facebook, and if you like them or follow them there, then you'll be able to get your updates of where they are each week on the weekends. Best cheesecake you'll ever have, I'll tell you right now. I mean, I try not to eat it because it makes me fat, but I still love it, and it is awesome. So that's Cremoso Cheesecake Company and Jason Hubbard there. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Forerunner Productions. That's for more great content, search Forerunner Productions on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and become a supporter of visiting forerunnerproductions.com. Forerunner Productions, telling the best stories ever told, capturing the soul of our society. And also, like again today, we'll give a shout out to Chase Sizemore, the guy who does all of our editing and mixing. Awesome guy. You never see him. He's always behind the scenes. And Chase, we really appreciate everything that you do. Now, because of the guests that I have today, I've got another special shout out. This company donated 100 pounds of ribs. And how much sausage?
20 pounds of sausage.
20 pounds of sausage for the open house of our guest, who is Bridget Parsons, with Saving Grace K9s. And they had their open house last weekend, and Nisa's sausage, and you can get Nisa's just about anywhere. We used to get Nisa's up in West Virginia. It is one of my favorite sausages. I'm not just saying that. My wife will tell you it is. Probably it's as close to the old country sausage that I used to eat as a kid that my family would make when they butchered hogs. And I love it. So please go by, visit Nisa's Sausage, pick up Nisa's. I don't have a promo code for you or anything, but I'm just here to tell you that they donated 100 pound of ribs, 40 pounds of sausage to the open house for this nonprofit. And we're going to tell you more about it. Again, that's Nisa's Sausage. Make sure you do that. Bridget, welcome to Let's Talk Fortitude. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for inviting us.
And I'm going to tell you something, people. She's a live wire, and I love talking to this lady. Ken and I went up to visit her and James, and for her to get to know us and us to get to know them and see what they do, to kind of get an idea of what they do. But they have a website, and that's actually how Ken Bonham, I'm just going to tell everybody, I'm going to give Ken all the credit here. He's a great friend of mine, and asked me one day, he said, John, I found these people, Saving Grace K9s. It's a small training outfit of some folks up in Lexington. Do you care if I reach out to them? I said, absolutely. And here we sit today. And Ken wanted to be here, but he's having to take care of some family issues. But anyway, we are here to let Bridget tell her story, because what they do, I think, is amazing. Anybody that's watched my podcasts over the last year know that, and I was just here talking to Bridget about what Mike Ritland does for Warrior Dogs with Warrior Dog Foundation, where he allows all these warrior dogs, these working dogs, military, or it could be police department dogs, come back. And Mike works with them to get rid of their PTSD, to cure them of that, so that the dogs can be adopted, or if they can't be adopted, Mike provides them a place to live out the rest of their life so that they don't have to be euthanized. Well, what Bridget and James do through Saving Grace K9s is they they rescue dogs, right? Or
We use rescue
you
dogs.
use
yes.
rescue dogs,
Yes.
or if the vet has their pet. I'm gonna let you tell this, but they're saving lives on both sides of this. It's
Yes.
not just one side. It's not like they're going out and getting a purebred dog from a breeder
Right.
and then bringing it in. They're taking a dog that may have been euthanized or may not have had a forever home
Right.
and bringing it in. So if you would, tell us how you got started and what put you down this road.
Ooh, how I started. I was an insurance adjuster for about 25 years.
That amazed me, by the
Yes.
way. That
What
an
made-
insurance agent turns, and you were an adjuster too
Yes.
as well?
I was an
Okay.
adjuster. I was an agent for about 5 years. In the remainder of that, I was an adjuster. Mostly property adjuster, meaning I was handling homes and commercial buildings and things like that. I wanted to restore my faith in humanity after being an adjuster for so long. So I started back to school. I was going to get my master's degree in vocational rehab. My first project was with some veterans, and I asked them, was talking to them about vocational rehab and things like that, and they said, it did never help us. It didn't help us. And I'm like, I'm not going to jump from one bad job to another. I legitimately needed to help. So they said, we need service dogs. And immediately I knew that's what I was supposed to do. It was like, people say you see the little light and everything coming up above your head. It's totally what I was supposed to do. That was my calling. So I stopped my master's degree program. I jumped ship from my career, and I started Saving Grace K9s.
And that was
In 2013.
2013.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That
That was a leap of faith, legitimately. I, at that point, was a single mom. My daughter has Down syndrome, so I was
Hey,
raising
she's
her.
awesome. We got to
She
get
is.
you. Go ahead and give her a quick shout out because we got to make sure that and we'll have Chase to give me a picture. We'll have to make sure we get a picture of her up on the.
She is larger than life. Anybody who has ever met Ella knows that she has pure heart. She is so loving. She actually helps our veterans a lot.
I can see how that would be.
Yeah, she has no judgment. She just loves everybody.
And that she does. I'm telling everybody, when Ken and I went up there that weekend, we walked through the door, and here comes Ella. I mean, it was a beeline, man. I mean, she.
You have to brace sometimes.
And it was, and the arms out.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest hug you ever. I mean, it was just your heart is just filled full of joy.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah, she's God's gift.
So you tell her that Mr. John said thank you.
I will.
And we are going to give her Ella. Here's your shout out, and we're going to put a picture up of you up on the podcast for everybody to see who you are. And you're a wonderful girlfriend. You just keep doing it the way you're doing it.
But yeah, that's how Saving Grace K9 started. I had absolutely no experience in the nonprofit world whatsoever. I just knew that it was going to happen. It was going to be okay because I did a lot of research, lots of mistakes, but that there's no manual on how to do this job.
Right.
We just happened to meet our trainer in the store one day. Ella, of course. Of course, it had to do with Ella. She ran up to a dog and was petting it, and the lady comes around the corner and she's like, this dog's kind of aggressive. Of course, it wasn't to Ella, but that happened. That was Kat Carter. That was our first trainer. And so we got to talking, and I was like, she can help me. So awesome. She developed the training program, and she was our trainer up until about 2 years ago. She had a little baby, and she took some time off, and she's an awesome mom, and we kept on moving and got a couple other trainers. So
that's awesome. So the property where you are now, because I mean you had to have somewhere to go. So
yes.
So once you got the vision, then where did that take you?
The two places that we were at before this 13-acre property, they were rental properties, and it wasn't land or anything that was involved in it. And as we started getting graduates and growing, the veterans were wanting to come in even after they graduated to hang out. Our place wasn't big enough. So then that would add more stress because there were so many people in there. And that was the impetus to go ahead and get the 13 acres and also kind of make it into a retreat. We have a pavilion there where we have cookouts every Saturday, which I'm sure they're eating right now as we're talking. They're eating the smoked sausage from Niece's. But it's been really good for the families too, because it's not just the veteran who's going through this, it's the family.
Now you do that at what James is doing today. You all do that every Saturday?
Every Saturday.
You have the cookouts so everybody look feed. And I'm just going to tell you guys out there right off the bat. If this finds a special place on your heart, look, Bridget's a nonprofit. That she's not out here getting rich off of this. And I went and watched
No.
I went and watched what they do, and it's amazing work. And if you feel like you want to donate, and we'll do this again. We'll have Chase put it up on the screen, and we'll make sure it's in our description below.
Yeah.
How can they get a hold of you? We'll do this again later, but how can they get a hold of you if they want to?
Obviously the website, that's the best place to get a hold of us. We also have on Amazon, we have a wish list. So if you don't want to do a monetary donation, you can do material donation. Or just, if you have anybody also that you know of who is a combat veteran who needs this, because this is for combat veterans with PTSD, please send them our way, because 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Those numbers are from, if I recall correctly, 2009. Guarantee you the numbers are higher now.
So Chad can probably tell you more about this than what I can. His brother's a JTAC. He calls in close air support for ground troops. Yeah. He's in the Air Force. Chad was actually in that training for a while. And his career took another turn in the military. But who is it, Chad, that Richie wears the bracelet? Do you know who that is?
Brad Smith.
It's Brad Smith. Richie
Bradley Smith, yeah. So he
wears a wristband.
Yep. He got killed downrange, so he was a JTAC who had a story for a different time. But he was a JTAC that had essentially an apprentice under him, was called a ROMAD at the time, radio operator, maintainer, and driver. Mm-hmm. You had to do a certain amount of deployments or time as a ROMAD before you could go for your JTAC qualification. Mm-hmm. And they got into a firefight. They were attached to an Army unit. They got into a firefight. They were getting ready to cross the river. The ROMAD was with one part of the team, and Brad was with the other part of the team. And when they came under fire, Brad went out of his way to save Mikey, who my brother also knew. But Brad was like a class ahead of my brother, which meant that they were going through, essentially, they spent 6 to 9 months to a year-ish hanging out together, going out together, seeing each other in passing, being in the dorms together and everything like that. So Rich knew Brad pretty well.
But he's got several JTACs who have committed suicide. Yeah. They have one of the highest suicide rates. And he's all the time, there's another black ribbon on Facebook, and it just rips my heart out.
Yes.
And who would have ever thought that a dog...
Yeah.
A dog. Yeah. I mean, we know it's man's best friend.
It's because they got their back.
You're not kidding. James's dog, I love James's
Chunk.
dog. Oh my! He named him right. He is a chunk. So you're at the rental properties, mm-hmm. and you're busting at the seams, basically. Yeah. You know you've got to. You got to do something. Yeah. So then. Did somebody approach you about the property that you had? Now, how did you come across that property?
No, we kept looking and looking and looking. We had a realtor that was helping us. And the property that we currently have right now, as soon as I stepped foot on the property, I knew that's what that was it. That's where we were supposed to be. Again, it was one of those light bulb moments. It's God's guidance, honestly.
And it's an awesome piece, beautiful piece of property. We walked it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But yeah, I have to listen to where I'm being steered and because this is what I'm supposed to do. So it was the property that we got, and the family who sold it to us sold it to us for a lot less than what they were asking because they knew what we were doing.
God's amazing how he does those things.
Yep.
So, and you dug out a big pond.
Yes.
And you're just waiting for some rain. We haven't had any rain.
I am so impatient. This is why God gave me Ella, because to teach me patience, and it still hasn't worked. I really, really want that to fill up. And that pond is named after Ben. I know that, I can't remember if we talked about Ben, but Ben was used to be our vice chairman, and he was killed in a car accident last November, which his anniversary of his death.
We talked about
Yeah,
that.
and we're calling it Ben's Pond.
Yeah.
So that's...
And once that thing fills up and you get the grass around it and do what you're going to do out there, that is going to be an amazing sanctuary.
We're going to stock it so the veterans can come out there and fish with their families in a safe place. So,
That is awesome.
yeah.
So you buy the property. Now, was the building that you're in now, was it on there? You had to build that too.
We built it.
I was going to say, it looked fairly new.
It is. It got completed in July of last year. We've only been training for about a year and a half.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. It was in my head, and everything came out. the only thing that we have left to do that was in my brain is to make the trails around the wooded area. We have a little over 6 acres of wooded areas, and we're going to put trails and benches so people can just go out there and sit and listen.
So I want to talk about the veterans, but I want to do this first. So you took us to a little room in the back where you all make your own bracelets. You make a lot of. Tell us about some of that stuff, because you do sell that. That's part of one of the ways you raise money.
Yep, it's all.
So tell us about that, and Chad, maybe we can, if you could send me some pictures of some of this stuff, and then what we'll do is we'll make sure I have Chase to put this in while you're talking about it. Have Chase show some pictures of this stuff so folks can know what to look for when they go to your website.
Right. We designed what's called a crossbody leash, hands free. You saw James with Jon,
awesome.
and it comes across, it hits at your hip, and then it attaches the dog to you, so you don't have to use your hands when you're walking around. We make those. We make leashes, seatbelt clips, paracord bracelets. We have a woodworking shop now where the guys are working on birdhouses. And I say guys, we also have females that are in the program. They're all combat vets as well. What else did we do yesterday? We made jewelry yesterday. That's part of the service dog program. Because service work's boring for dogs. They have to learn to sit and lay down and stay. So what we do is we have them do projects, the veterans.
Let's roll into that, because that was going to be one of my next weeks. So that's a great segue. Let's roll into that. So go ahead and tell them how you do that.
We'll have them, they can sit down at the table and do the projects while the dog does a downstay.
And what all projects do they do? Because you have several projects. So if somebody has a business that might have some of these supplies that they'd want to donate.
Yeah, we have a forge that we still haven't figured out how to do.
So anybody out there that knows how, it's just a small forge, but it's awesome. But if anybody out there has a forge or knows how to operate one of those, please get in touch with Brendan.
Yeah, training class would be great. So we don't need anybody like burning down our brand new place. That would not be good. They were making birdhouses, little log cabin birdhouses yesterday.
I saw one that you were working on. Did you finish it?
Yeah.
How did it turn out? Pretty good? You have to send me a picture.
It's really pretty. One of our guys did wire wrapping yesterday. He wrapped around a shell, and then we do painting. Oh, we did basket weaving yesterday too. I just got some basket stuff.
Really?
So we did basket weaving. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I figured to add that in. I'm gonna start doing either a monthly or or every 2 weeks, doing Reiki. I don't know if you've heard of what Reiki is. It's healing. There's another thing called healing touch, but it basically helps get rid of all the anger and it helps. Yeah, I've learned how to do Reiki, so we'll be doing that and hopefully have someone else on board that can help us with the Reiki as well, and do healing touch and yoga.
Cool.
And that will be for the spouses as well, and for any of the children who need it.
So you were doing insurance.
Yeah.
An agent. Then you went into adjusting. You knew God had something more for you.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure how you was going to get there or how to do it.
We're put on this earth to make a difference. I wasn't making a difference.
So God opened up all the doors.
He did.
You were out with Ella.
Yeah.
Ella runs into this dog that's supposed to be something that's really aggressive that just she melted into butter.
Yeah.
You met this lady, then you find a couple of rental places, you start busting at the seams, you find a piece of property that the owners decide, hey, we love what you all are doing, we're going to sell it to you at a lower price.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, we need a building, so now you find you got your building bill on there, and now you've got a pond in the back, and
the pavilion.
so I'm going to back up just a little bit. After your first few veterans that came through, what are some of the struggles? Because you and I, me and James Kim, we talked about this a little bit up there, and we talked a little bit in the kitchen just a few minutes ago. And this is so sad, but we deal with all kinds of people in this world. But you also deal with, because Don Shipley, and we'll give Don a shout out, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he deals with stolen valor all the time. You deal with those same people trying to get into your program. Will you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. When we first started the program, I was innocent. I was like, oh yeah, nobody's going to lie about that. Who would want to lie about that? And people want a free dog, because this is all provided to veterans for free. So we changed our rules, and now we require them to show us their DD-214, and also paperwork from the VA stating that they're diagnosed with PTSD. But yes, we get a lot of people who, I think we're at almost 1,000 applicants, and we've only accepted, I have to look at the paperwork again, I think it's a little over 300.
Wow.
That's it.
That's incredible. So how did you, when it comes, because I know that Dawn studies the DD-214, which I could probably look at a DD-214 and tell you if it's real or not.
Yeah.
But I'm a former veteran, so I know I have mine in there. I know exactly what a real one looks like. But over the years, have you all had anybody help show you how to spot a fake or things that would throw red flags or?
My husband looks through all of them. He's the one who does the paperwork, and he's.
I can see James being pretty scrutinized.
Yeah, he is. We'll call it scrutinizing.
No BS, James.
No, and there's not a lot of BS that's involved in there. All of us are straightforward.
Well, you have to be.
We have to be.
These people can fake.
Yeah.
That's like, what did Rocky call it? He told me they can spot a frog from a mile away. Yeah. You know, he deals with addicts every day.
Well,
he used to be one.
When they, if they get past all of that and they start the class that has usually 3 or 4 veterans in it, it'll come to light eventually. We haven't had anybody really stay in for very much longer, and we haven't had much fraud that has started the class. That was at the very beginning, because we learned now who to accept.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
It is. That's what I said. There's no manual on how to do this. So yes, we've made mistakes, but we've corrected them.
Yeah, and look what the work that you're doing now is incredible.
Yeah.
So what I found was so amazing is they do art. Yeah. You know, just like you were saying, I never thought about that, but so the dog is taught to stay there. Yeah. So some of the things that these dogs do to help these veterans, can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah. What that dog actually does?
Yeah. In order for a dog to be a service dog, they have to be trained in one or more tasks to alleviate the disability. So they only need to be taught one. Ours are taught several. Some of the things they can be learned to do is what's called block, where they will stand behind their veteran or between their legs facing backwards, so they know if anybody's approaching from behind. That allows them to not have to constantly scan all over the place when they're out in public. So like with Chunk's a big dog. So Chunk will sit in between James's legs, so James will be able to tell by his body posture that somebody's approaching from behind. They can be taught to clear a room. James doesn't like entering a room unless he knows nobody's in there, like especially at night. So he's in the process of teaching Chunk this. So Chunk will go in, check the perimeter, and come back. Obviously, if he comes back without barking, that means that nobody was in there. Some of our other veterans have selected that as well. Each veteran gets to choose what they want their dog to learn. They can be taught to wake them up from their nightmares. They can be taught to remind them to take their medications.
That is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to take the medications the same time every day.
Right.
Give the dog the treat. The time you take the medication, dogs love treats.
Buddy and Dylan always knew when it was treat time, did they
Yeah.
not? They
So
always knew.
Exactly.
Our
So
dogs
that's how
did.
you're training your dog to tell you when to take your meds.
That is awesome.
You just have to remember to treat the dog, so the dog will remind you to take your meds.
I'm so happy you're here. This is I am so glad that Ken called you. This is this is awesome. I mean, this is why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, this is awesome.
One of our other veterans, this is my favorite story. I won't name his name because we weren't allowed to tell his wife what he did. So when he would start to get elevated, he couldn't leave the room because he didn't want to be rude to his wife because that would piss her off. Sorry. That would make
No,
her
you're
mad.
good. It's a podcast.
Okay.
You're good. Now, I will
make
tell
you
you this.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I separated the two podcasts.
Okay.
Because if my bucket list man ever comes
Yeah.
on my podcast, just go watch Mike Drop sometime. He has
Yeah.
a podcast.
This
So
is why
you're fine. You're fine.
This is why I can't post a lot of videos to YouTube of our training.
No.
Yeah, there's lots of F-bombs.
But
Yeah.
you're fine. You're good.
Okay. So he couldn't leave because he didn't want to make his wife mad. So he taught his dog when he would go like that, the dog would bark. He's like, oh, dog's got to go to the bathroom. And he but we weren't allowed to tell her that. But yeah, that would get the dog to go to the bathroom so he could get out of the situation, calm himself down, so it would not,
But that is smart.
Yeah,
That
and
is
speaking
so
of
smart.
calming down, there's also what's called abdominal pressure. Literally, when the dog puts pressure on your abdomen, it takes down your blood pressure.
I did not know that.
Yes. So, whatever you want to call it, hugs or whatever task that they want to name it. So, especially with Chunk, because Chunk's big, and all he has to do is come across your abdomen and it calms you down.
So I have a cousin, former Navy SEAL, 15
Mm-hmm.
years. We went out to eat 2 or 3 weeks ago over here in Mid Hill. And just like Chad was telling you, he doesn't like to have his back to a door in public. I don't either. So when I went in and sat down, I wasn't thinking. I sat down to where I faced the door, which would have put my cousin's back to the door.
Yeah.
And when he walked in and saw me, he said, John, I ain't
You
comfortable
got to
with this.
move.
So we switched it to where
Yeah.
both of us could see the door. And I mean, it's just little things like that that will trigger people
Yeah.
that
The normal civilian population doesn't.
they have no idea.
No, they don't.
So if you are aware when you walk into a place and you see somebody sitting by themselves and they're facing the door, or just certain way, you could pretty much tell people who know to be aware of their surroundings. So that is I don't want to talk about this yet, but we are definitely going here. I don't want to talk about this quite yet. Is it okay to talk about James
Sure.
a little bit?
Yeah.
So your husband has a dog, Chunk.
Yes.
And they just celebrated today, correct? Or the pictures you were showing us about just getting there?
Those are Chunk's brothers.
Oh, well, tell us about Chunk's brothers. Because
Okay.
Listen, Chunk is awesome, and he's got siblings in this program, and they just got a big deal happen to them the other
Yeah,
day.
they the way the program works is the first probably 6 to 8 weeks they train at the training center, and that's just all the basic commands, and then they get tested what's called a K9 Good Citizen test. That just basically makes sure that they've got control of their dog's listening to them. Once they pass the K9 Good Citizen test is when they officially get their service dog vest, and that is when they officially become a service dog team in training. So Chunk's little brothers both got those, and they're only 7 months old, which is
And they're Rottweilers.
Yeah, they're Rottweilers. Yeah.
Gorgeous!
Yes, they're Rottweilers. So today they got to take their first public access outing, so they got to go out in public.
So speaking of public outings, please tell us about your trip to the zoo.
Oh wow. Yeah. The trip to the zoo, we do.
And why you do those trips?
Yeah, we usually do monthly trips with graduates to try to get them back out. Service dog training never stops. The dogs are always training. So this is an opportunity for them to tweak some of the training or just to get out with their brothers and sisters and things like that. So we took a trip to the zoo, which, mostly was awesome. Except the gorilla.
Why do you hear this story?
It was a juvenile gorilla. And I've been there before, so I this is a flashback for me. My gorilla PTSD from the zoo. I kind of remembered what the gorilla had done, but I couldn't remember. So we're all standing there, and all of a sudden the gorilla comes flying up, and bam, 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 on the thing, and then runs away. One of the service dogs was like, "What's your problem?" and didn't do anything. She's just like, "I don't understand why you're doing that." And that was a husky. The other service dog was very terrified and started barking. So we had to back that dog off. And then our trainer's grandson, bawling. He was terrified and screaming. So Ella goes over to him and holds his hand and says, "I protect you." So it was, that was.
So how many did you take with you to the zoo that day?
Ooh. There were 7 teams, I think.
I know that's quite a few.
It was a lot. It was 2 of our trainers, myself, and then 7 teams. Because you don't want to take a bunch of teams and not have a bunch of trainers. So we have 2 trainers in our program now. So when we do that, we want to make sure that we have enough to, if we need to tweak anything, if a gorilla or something like that bangs on a wall, to try to calm the dog down.
Right.
And the handler, because there was one of our veterans too. He was like, "Oh," he's like, "I need to go check my shorts," because it was pretty loud.
I need to come back up, or I need to either come back up and try to take pictures, or have you send them to me of your memorial area that you've set up. And I think that is awesome. So what? I'm gonna let you just tell about it. So if you're any tearjerkers out there, hang on, because this was awesome. It was very sad, but it's awesome that they play tribute.
Yeah, we have the drawback to knowing all of these awesome people and having, busting at the seams, is that a lot of them die. And I had to give them credit, and I had to memorialize them, and I had to do something, because it was a 14-month period. We lost 4, and that was bad. They weren't all to suicide. One was to suicide, one was actually 2 were cancer, and the other one was to the car accident, was Ben. So it was something I had to do to work through my pain, and the families needed somewhere to come, but we have a nice little kneeling soldier, and all of the veterans' names who were killed and who died are on a stone with their names on it. All the dogs that we've lost are with a little angel that's holding the dog.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the.
It's not just the veteran. It's the dogs.
Dog too.
Yeah, the dogs have their back. They deserve just as much to be there as the veteran does. We've had 2 civilians that are in there. One was our trainer that started with this new place, and a couple of months after she started training with us, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it was aggressive, and she passed away within a few months. And Jody was awesome.
She has the bigger rock, by the way.
Yes, of course she does. Of course she does. She was larger than life, a tiny little thing, but she was larger than life too. And the one thing right after she told me that she had been diagnosed, she said, "Can I still train there?" And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Of course you can. You train as long as you can." Like, that's all that she was concerned about. She thought that she was failing the guys because she was sick. Like, are you kidding me? So
selflessness.
Yeah, she was a beautiful lady. Beautiful, beautiful heart. And she kept thanking me that, because I think we restored her faith in humanity as well. Just that last part of her life was beautiful because she was able to help veterans. Her husband's a Vietnam veteran. And she was in hospice. And that was the day that there was 4 teams that she started out with. And we brought 2 of the teams in, and she got to present them with their badge.
Awesome.
And then the hospice place would not let us in for the next 2 teams that graduated the next day. So she told them she was going home. And she went home. She was like, I'm going to graduate my teams. And she went home, and we went to her house, and she got to present them with the 2 badges as well. Beautiful lady.
Why would they not let you all in? It's
COVID.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I butted heads a little bit with the nursing staff, because that Jody deserved. She deserved to see that. That is what she needed to see. So, but she did. She went home, and she died at home. A couple
That's
weeks
awesome.
later. Yeah.
So, you guys had a big open house this past Saturday.
We did have a big open house.
You say what, 100, a little over 100 people?
It
or
had to
so?
have been at least that. There were a lot of people out there.
It's a good thing Nieces gave you a lot of ribs
Yes.
and sausage, huh?
Yes, it is.
So, when we came up to visit you,
Mm-hmm.
you gave Ken and I a book. Now I've reciprocated, it's not, it doesn't quite carry what this does, but I mean, the author of that one's here. So, but this is Boots, writing by Katie
Yep, Katie
Torney. It's illustrated by Leanne
Pizzio.
Pizzio. I'm glad you helped me there. I would have butchered that.
So,
It's called Boots. And this book was written, I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to butcher this story.
it was written by Katie Torney. Katie's son is Garrett Torney. Garrett was a Marine, loved dogs. And when he came back from his deployments, Katie noticed that he wasn't the same. He had PTSD. And unfortunately, Garrett was killed in a car accident. And Katie and Garrett's friends decided to start a foundation because they didn't want him to die in vain. So they started the foundation, the Garrett Torney Foundation, and Katie felt that she needed to write a book about veterans. This is a kid's book. It's basically to help the children when their dad or mom comes back from deployment, because it is different. They are different. They're completely different. No one who goes through those situations will ever come back the same. That's just not going to happen. So the book is to help the kids through that. And what's really awesome is the dog's name is Ella. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I do now. That is awesome.
It's because Ella helps everybody get through things too. So that was why the dog's name was Ella. Yeah.
Well, that was interesting. Sorry about that, guys.
So, now, these books, they sell these books, correct? Is that, and then that goes towards the foundation as well?
For the Garrett Torney Foundation,
Okay.
yeah. And they support Saving Grace K9s.
So, let me look here real quick. You can probably tell me quicker than I can. So, if you go to www.thegarretttorneyfoundation.com, you can donate there.
Yes.
And I'm sure you can probably find.
Yeah,
the
you can
book
find
there.
the books for sale there, and you can also donate a book to a veteran. Because the books that we have, there's several books that we have at our building. That's one of them. Those, they are to be donated out. Those have all been paid for.
Really?
Yeah, somebody gave them a very large donation, so those could go to the veterans in need.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So if you would please, again, go to www.thegarretttorneyfoundation.com, and we'll have this linked on the screen as well, or in the
They're awesome.
in the
Awesome
description.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just to give you an idea, of what they do, these people don't raise this money and then go spend it on themselves in the Key West.
No.
I was flabbergasted
So
when
was
you
I.
put that picture up.
Yeah.
The Garrett Torney Foundation last week, and I'm going to let you say it.
Wrote a check for $27,000 to us.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yes, it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You hear that, folks? That's where, I mean, that's going to help veterans
Yeah.
to keep them alive and not putting a gun to their head or driving their car over a cliff or into a tree.
Yep. It costs $1,500 to put a team through to graduation. They have now supported 40 teams in 4 years. 40. And that's not just the veteran. This ripples out to their families, to their friends, everything. Because this is a huge change in the veteran. I don't know how many times we've had the family members come up to me and say, you know what, thanks for giving my dad back or my husband back. So.
You hear that, folks? Katie, Miss Katie,
Yeah.
Torney, thank you so much. Everybody, please, please go to the website and make a donation. Donate a book to a veteran, or make a donation to their foundation. What they're doing is great work. I actually went and I witnessed it. These people are not driving $80,000 cars.
No.
By the way, I agree with Kim Bonham. Whoever designed your logo is awesome. That thing is awesome.
Yeah.
And we will, I'll have Chad to make sure that he puts up the logo and everything on our website as well. And when Ken and I left there the other day, we were just blown away. The whole trip back, we just could not believe what we were seeing, because if he hadn't have done, I mean, we need to get you out more. We need to get more people aware of what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And because what you're doing to help these veterans, I can't do.
Yeah.
Now I can give you money. I can help support you. I can try to get you out on my podcast with as many households on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram that we can possibly do, and try to help. Then that's what we do. We all have a platform. We all have some way to try to help.
Everybody has their strengths.
I've got 2 boys serving active duty right now.
Yeah.
I did just shy of 10 years myself.
Yeah.
I've got guys that I graduated high school with who are dealing with issues from Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
I got out at Desert Shield. Desert Storm happened right after I got out, and I'm glad I got out.
Yeah. PTSD doesn't go away. We have Vietnam veterans who come into our program.
And that's
I think that's also something that needs to be pointed out. A lot of the organizations, the big ones that you see, they're all post 9/11. There's Vietnam veterans out there that need help. To do post 9/11, that just, it crawls up my rear end and dies, because that is not okay. If you have served this country, you deserve to be helped.
yeah, and that's just like the time that I served. There's nothing there for me.
No,
There's nothing there for me. But you know, there's a time like after 1972 to Desert Storm. Anybody that served through that period, there's nothing there.
And we don't put a time limit
So,
on. Bless you guys. That was tandem sneezing. That was awesome.
So, but I guess where Ken asked a question when we were out in the Memorial Garden.
Yeah.
And he asked you, I can't remember how it was he asked you the question. And I had thought the same thing. I wish he could have been here today, because he is so great with questions. He should have his own podcast, actually. So these veterans come in that are dealing with PTSD from the trauma in their life. They get a dog. And I think James just went through this. So then their dog
Has to
lifestyle
retire. Yeah.
has to retire. And now James still has his old dog, right?
Yes.
Arthritis put it out of service.
Yes.
But so Ken asked the question, is there an issue with the trauma that they get from losing the dog that's helping them? You know, how does that work, or have you guys seen many vets have to go through that, other than James, where he's just starting to go through that?
Yeah, we've had several so far, because now we're going on 7 years. You know, the lifespan of a working dog is not that long, so we're starting to see this recycle. It's very hard for them. Like, James still doesn't trust Chunk 100% because he trusted Rebel. Like, Rebel had his back all the time, and that was his buddy. That was his battle buddy. So he's slowly working through trusting Chunk like he did Rebel. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And unfortunately, Rebel's got some health issues that we found out this week and possibly is not going to be okay. So
Tell James my love and prayers with him. I know we just lost ours.
it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So
Bless your heart. We just lost our last one. And because of family and kids, we just decided not to have another one.
Yeah.
I miss it. I mean, my wife misses it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you don't miss the accidents on the floor.
no, no.
So that's one thing that we forgot to mention. Please do tell James my condolences. I know how hard that is to lose a buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a family member. That's not
it
a dog.
is.
That's a family member.
Oh, he's totally.
It's a brother.
He's been he gets up in my lap now instead of James's. So now he's my buddy, and I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for making it even harder.
I know,
Dude.
thanks, buddy. Yeah. But you can do, and you
Breaking
guys,
one heart wasn't enough.
I know, you can look up Reiki, but you can do Reiki on animals. It helps them with their pain. So I've been doing that with him, and here's my, I call him a Reiki whore. Because he's constantly, as soon as I sit down, he's like, make it go away. And he gets up on my lap, and I just put my hands on him, and it makes him feel better. So, yeah, he's my Reiki whore. It's good
So,
stuff.
with what you all see with these service dogs, just imagine a dog, even though, you know, these dogs may not be detecting drugs or explosives, or identifying a target inside a hot house or a house, and they go in by themselves and take a target down. But these are dogs that are doing great work in and of themselves by protecting that person. They're still doing that protection part of it. So just imagine if once that dog got to where he aged out, okay, we're just going to stick a needle in you.
Yeah.
That's what Mike said. No, we're not doing that. You
No.
send me your dogs.
No, they've earned the right to
Exactly.
to continue on and to.
And that's awesome. So what you all have seen, I mean, even though it is tough, but it's something that they learn to cope with because they know that dog, you know, is still going to be there for them. It is hard. It's not easy.
No, it's never easy. And what us having pets. You know how happy you are when you come home and the dog's all happy to see you.
Wagging the tail, they don't care if your breath stinks or what's happened, the kind of day you've had.
The dogs to them is 100 times that. So it's very difficult for them to make that transition. And we're there for them however we need to be there for them. I don't know how many buddy checks I do a day. I constantly am making sure my guys are okay.
So when we see a service dog, if I see a service dog in Lowe's or Home Depot or the grocery store, is there any way to identify whether if it come through your program or not on its best?
Typically they'll have the IGY6 with the Saving Grace K9s patch on, or they'll have a Saving Grace K9s patch on it if it's one of ours.
Cool.
Yeah. You don't have to have a service dog vest.
I want to buy one of them patches.
You don't have
and put
to.
it on my wall.
Okay.
If you don't care, I'm gonna get
I
one
don't
Friday.
care.
I want to get one and put it up on the wall.
Yeah.
I need to get one and put on my website too.
Yeah, you don't have to have a service dog vest. That's not required by ADA, by the Americans with Disabilities. You don't have to have that. However, we provide the vest and the crossbody leash that has like service dog on it. And the ID tag. That's what they earn at the very end. When they graduate, they get an ID tag that says their name and their dog's name. You don't have to have that. However, we provide that because it makes it, that's several more layers where a store owner's not going to come up to you and say, is that a service dog? Well, can you read? It's got service dog written all over it. So it helps a little bit.
I like it too whenever I see it because, a lot of people get real friendly.
And they want a pet.
But if you know it's a service dog,
Yeah.
parents or whatever are going to be more likely to say, hey,
Yeah.
we need to keep our distance. Everything's
Right.
cool. Dog's not going to bite me or anything. But
No.
there's a reason why that dog's a service dog.
Right.
We don't want to create any anxiety or
And
any.
you don't want to distract it from their job.
Exactly. So that I like it when they wear them. And
Yeah.
to me, it brings honor to the dog. I
Yeah.
like it. I'm like, hey, that dog's a
Oh,
stud.
they look so handsome this morning with their new vests on. It looks so pretty.
That dog is a stud.
Yeah, they make me happy.
Listen, is there any questions you have for us or anything that you can offer that we haven't covered here today that would bring more awareness, or if I missed something about the program that I just overlooked or anything? Please, let's
Just
talk about it.
the veteran suicide, that is, it's so hard, and a lot of these guys aren't reaching out. I don't know how many of the guys that have committed suicide, they haven't come to us because they don't think that they need it, or they think that they're not bad enough. They're not bad enough off. I'll give it to someone else because they're worse off than me. No. They need to come, they need help.
Or they're embarrassed.
There is a lot of that because mental illness is, everybody wants to sweep it under the rug. We did
Or
a,
look down on somebody because
Yeah.
they have that issue.
well, we did a 22 push-up challenge at the Davidson County Sheriff's Office on Veterans Day. They're embracing this. That made me so proud because the Davidson County Sheriff's Office, they posted on their Facebook page and everything. And they wanted to bring awareness to mental illness because everybody keeps sweeping it under the rug. Suicide's not pretty. It's not.
No.
Nobody wants to carry that. Nobody wants to do a story about that because it's not pretty. That these guys are dying. So that needs to be out there. It is okay. Asking for help is a strength, not a weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and nobody, I can guarantee you, if I went through a quarter of the stuff that these guys did, I'm a civilian, if I saw a quarter of what they did, I'd probably be in the corner crying and sucking my thumb.
Yeah.
It's going to change a human being. You're never going to be who you were before, and that's okay. And I think that's the problem, is they want to be who they were before. You won't.
No.
But that's okay. And I think, I don't want to bash on the VA, however, because James has been through, I don't know how many treatments and how many counseling sessions. They're trying to make PTSD, they're trying to make it go away. It doesn't. There's ways to cope with it. And they keep saying, well, when you get better. There is no getting better. There's coping with it. And there's things that you can do to help it, but it's not going to go away. And that's making them feel like something's wrong because the VA is telling them that it'll go away. It's not. And that's okay. I keep wanting to say it's okay. It's okay that it doesn't. It is what it is. This is part of life now. This is your life now. And ask for help.
Exactly. That's one of the things, that when I look back, a lot of the podcasts I watch, it's military veterans.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are talking about the theater of war.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to do, everybody's beating that horse to death. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to undermine what happened in the theater of war.
Yeah.
But I would rather take a veteran's story that when he got out, he become an entrepreneur, started a business,
Yeah.
and tell that story of his success. Let him share his struggles,
Yeah.
and those things, but to give encouragement to others, and that was the premise of starting a podcast. And then whenever we start thinking about, well, look what Bridget and James are doing with Saving Grace, and then I'm like, man, we've got to. So we broadened our spectrum of the podcast to bring awareness to not just business owners. Kenny, I can't say it right well. Almost did. I have another guy that's coming on. We talked about it. he wasn't a veteran, but his stepdad was.
Yeah.
So there's still a connection there. But I still want to tell the American story of people who have really dug in. You could have probably made a 6-figure income being an insurance adjuster.
I was making a pretty good income.
I'm going to tell you.
It was nice.
And you give that up
Yeah.
to do what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Bless your heart, man. God's blessings upon you because we need that.
I would do it 10 times over. I wouldn't change a thing.
You
There's a
have
lot of times that I wanted to quit, but I can't.
You have a servant's heart, not a greedy heart.
Yeah.
And you're not happy. You're not happy unless you're serving others.
Right.
Unless you're giving something. And, and I don't want to get religious, but I used to do hospital visitation at our church. And people have asked me, what was your, over the years they've said, if you could name one, what would be, the part of ministry that you enjoyed the most or you thought you got the most out of it? And I said, hospital visitation, shut-in visitation, visiting people who are dying of cancer. And they said, what?
Mm-hmm.
I said, you don't understand. When you go to see those people, you're going to give. You go to see somebody like that and you're going to get, you're sick.
Yeah.
And there was times, Bridget, that I would leave from visiting those people and I would feel guilty because I felt more blessed than when I went in there, than what I ever felt like I gave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, am I doing this right? Because I'm not, should I be feeling blessed by, and I found out, John, it's because imagine you can't, if you never run the gas out of your car or your lawnmower or your motorcycle, the gas goes bad. You've got to use that gas so that you can put new gas in it. And if we keep keep giving ourselves and giving of ourselves, and then refueling and getting the new fuel, the new desire, then we can be effective. But if we just that's what that book is about. Because he talks in there about all the gifts that are in the grave because nobody used them.
Yeah.
God bless you, Bridget. I mean, you and James, what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's an awesome ministry, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And please let Katie know how much I appreciate what she's doing to help you all. And maybe if you would give her a shout, I mean, let her know that I might be getting in touch with her. I would love to maybe get her on the podcast. Or Chad and I, maybe next year we can come out and do your open house and do a video of that. We're going to be shooting Sawtooth Hunt in Richland, North Carolina. It's a family that this thing started from one of their family members, a cousin that had a brain tumor that loved to hunt. Now they do hunts for handicapped folks. It can be mentally or physically. Yeah. This year they've given away 3 track chairs. Given away 3 track chairs.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's something we can do to bring some more awareness to what Katie and her foundation is doing as well. And, Chad has a podcast called Impetus of the Minds of the Driven. And, I mean, there's a possibility there'd be a place on there on his podcast. He does a great interview, man. He's a lot better than I am. I'm just an old man out here this is a hobby to me. So thank you so much. And please tell James that I said hi and my condolences for what your guys are going through. And Bella, man, make sure, just give her a big hug for me. She's a huge heart. She's like a big giant heart walking down the road.
She is.
And Chad's older brother and his wife have a big soft spot in their heart for kids with autism.
Yeah.
And that really makes me happy. I mean, they'll do stuff for the Autism Foundation and stuff. And
so is one of your granddaughters.
So, there's I don't know if I ever told you this, but my wife and I lost our first daughter at 5 months due to, she had trisomy 22 16q.
Yeah.
One of her 16th chromosome broke off and attached itself to the 22nd. And she was only 6 known cases at the time
Wow.
in the early 80s. Most of them are stillbirth or miscarriage.
Yeah.
And so we have a if you'd see Danielle's face, you could see she had a little bit of down as well.
Yeah, because
Part
Down
of that.
syndrome's trisomy 21. Yeah.
So, so you know all about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, well, she had what?
Yeah,
Like,
nobody understands trisomy 21.
So she had holes between the top 2 chambers, the bottom chamber and the top.
Yeah,
I mean,
luckily
it was
Ella didn't have any holes in her heart. That was
an enlarged
good.
heart.
yeah.
It was just. But anyway, she lived to be 5 months, and I know exactly why, because she was a huge healer
Yep.
for our families.
Yeah.
The 2 of our families. And so we have a huge place. So you tell her, Mr. John
Oh
sends a
my
big
gosh.
hug.
And I didn't bring her because I know damn well she would be walking. She'd be exploring your house, your refrigerator. She'd be making herself something to eat. Seriously, I'm not kidding.
She's awesome.
I'm not kidding.
So anyway, everybody out there, Bridget, thanks again so much. She drove down to Charlotte, down to Mint Hill today from Lexington, North Carolina. It's about an hour drive, 10-minute drive. So thank you so much. I
Thank you.
do appreciate it. And we are definitely going to help bring awareness to suicide and to the foundation and to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And this is awesome. Hey, everybody, make sure you go to ForerunnerProductions.com now, ForerunnerProductions.com. Make sure you go to SavingGraceK9s.com.
.org. It's okay. You'll get it both
What
ways.
is it?
.org.
.org.
That's fine. If
Yeah,
you do
because
.com,
you're-
it'll redirect.
Okay. .org. I'm sorry. .org. So is this one .org? No, theirs is .com. And also to the Garrett Torney Foundation.com, and I'm sure that's probably on your website as well, right?
Yeah, they're
There's
listed
a
as a
link to there.
sponsor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're linked on there as well. God bless everybody. We'll see you in the next one. You're awesome, man.
Wow.
You're a great interview. You're awesome.